Manchester United has been an absolute roller coaster over the last few years, but really over the last couple of days. Ten Hag got sacked as manager of Manchester United, and it seems to look like, and it's pretty much confirmed, that they are picking up Ruben Amorim from Sporting in Portugal and making him the brand new manager of this historic English club that goes by the name of Manchester United. Now, I'm going to show you what I believe will happen with Ruben Amorim, as I am a Benfica fan and watch the Portuguese league very heavy. I've seen Ruben Amorim coach Sporting, and I'm going to show you exactly what I think he does with this Manchester United team and how the rest of the season will go for him and Manchester United. Now, as of right now, this is what Manchester United's starting 11 looks like with Ten Hag, but this is not what it's going to look like by the end of the season, I truly believe. I think it's going to change massively as Ruben Amorim runs a 5-back system. His system is a 5-back, obviously, when defending, a 3-back when attacking, and I think that he will stick with this system. We have seen this system be very successful in big European teams. I believe Chelsea actually won I think that Chelsea was kind of running it when they won the Champions League that one year. But it's a system that gives 2 midfielders, 3 wingers, and an attacker. It's kind of a system like this, but also not really, because he really uses his left back and his right back very, very offensively. But what we'll do is we'll put it in something like a 5-2-3, or even we could do it better with a 3-back, but I think a 5-back will be best. And then we'll go into the tactics and really do kind of what Ruben does. So what Ruben does is he plays these 2 guys as inside forwards, and these outside guys really start attacking. The wing backs are really aggressive going forward. I mean, super aggressive. And they are very strong with the over-the-top through balls onto speed. It's just incredible, the system he runs. When they attack, it almost becomes a 4-back, sometimes a 3-back, depending on their opponent. If they're playing a good opponent, it'll look like a 4-back as one of the right. If they attack the right side, the left back will drop. It kind of like shifts. If they attack a weaker team, then it's everybody forward. They defend with 3. It's very cool to see. One guy will be more of a holding, and one will be more of a box-to-box, kind of how they run their system. And I'll show you and showcase exactly what I think is going to happen. Honestly, looking at these formations, the more I think about it, I think it's going to look more like a 5-2-1-2. They don't really got a formation that really does justice to what Ruben Amorim actually does. Because Bruno Fernandes will definitely be used as a center forward, like a cam that's really close to his striker. That's how he always uses, like, Balt. Balt is what I would imagine Bruno Fernandes is going to be. The player that's in behind the strikers all the time, making it happen. I think he can really get the best, and I mean the best, out of Bruno Fernandes. But I think the system will look something more like this, but something more with one striker, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes 100% sense to y'all, but to me, in my head, it kind of makes sense. I definitely think in the middle of the park, it's going to be 2 players that are going to be massive to this formation. And the first one is going to be a player that goes by the name of Ugarte. Now, Ugarte is, if you guys don't know, this guy is really Bruno's guy, Ruben Amorim's guy, right? This is the guy that was massive for Sporting under Ruben Amorim and then left to PSG because of Ruben Amorim. 60 million they got for him, right? And I also think my boy Meno is going to be a massive part of the team, as I think he's going to be able to do really big things with Meno. Like, in my opinion, I think he's going to turn Meno into more of a beast than the kid already is. In my opinion. So I think we're definitely going to see him in the starting 11 as well. But again, it's not really doing justice, because Ugarte, they say, can't play the center mid role, but he really can. The strikers, I think Marcus Rashford will be a very big deal for him, but I also think he's going to go out and buy a different striker. See, when Ruben Amorim left Braga, which Sporting bought his release clause to get them mid-season, towards the end of the season, he brought Paulinho with him, who was a number 9. So what I believe is the first thing that Ruben Amorim will do in January is go after Gyökeres, a striker that has like a 100 million release clause on him, but you know, it's always ways around that. This is kind of his guy. This is the guy that has really helped Ruben Amorim, in my opinion, massively. I think he's been very good for Ruben Amorim, and Ruben Amorim's been really good for him. So I think they're gonna try their very best to bring Gyökeres to Manchester United. And if they get him, he is definitely an amazing Swedish number 9 that can't be stopped. So with that being said, I think that will be the first business that my boy Ruben Amorim does, is tries to get the number 9 out of Sporting. Sporting will be very, very difficult to convince to let him go. This is facts. They're not just going to let this guy walk. I think they're going to really have to convince him because they know how great of a striker they have. But I think Sporting will try their best to make it happen. The second thing that I think will happen is Ruben Amorim loves Inácio. Inácio is a very young Portuguese center back that plays this system very, very well, whether it's a 3-back, a 5-back, whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, Inácio buyout clause in real life is only 40 million. 40 million for a young center back is not a lot. It's a really, really solid release clause. So in this game, you actually have to pay more than what his release clause is in real life. I believe it's only 40 million. With that being said, I think the next move will be Inácio. I think he tries to bring 2 players from Sporting, and I think he might get them. And if he does get them, his system will be very, very, very on point. He'll have the exact guys that he needs with Gyökeres in the middle. He will then have Inácio in the back, who's an important piece to his puzzle. Gyökeres up top, Ugarte in the middle, and Inácio in the back. Just an unbelievable, honestly, in my opinion, that would be like a fairy tale for him. I think he would have everything he needs, so we give him everything that we think is going to happen. This is what I think he'll do with the club. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean it's 100% going to happen. And look, the game thought the Gyökeres move was a D. Here for Inácio, they think it's an A. They thought the Gyökeres deal was a D, which is wild to me because he's one of the best number 9s in football right now. But as we go to look at the starting 11 again, it's complicated because I don't think this is the way it's going to line up. I do think Bruno will be right behind the striker, one striker. And I think everything else, they just don't really have the formation. I think that's going to happen, right? I don't know. Bruno has to be more up the field. I don't see him benching Meno. I don't see him benching Ugarte. That's his guy. Bruno's for sure going to start. This is the closest thing I think that it'll be. Inácio and Martinez on the wings with the lit down the middle, and then the left back and the right back. This makes the most sense to me, but I also think that he's gonna use Garnacho massively. I just don't know exactly how. See, it's such a weird one because the game doesn't allow you to run the 4-3-2-1 the way that Ruben runs it, right? It's one of those things where EA makes it be cams and left mids, and the truth is Bolt plays like a winger, center forward. It's very hard to explain how Bolt plays at Sporting right now, but I would imagine it would line up something like this, right? It would line up something like this, and the team would be Marcus Rashford playing as kind of like a winger, right? And Bruno Fernandes playing as the all in the middle of the park playmaker, also goal scorer behind the striker. And then he'll have a left mid and a right mid that's very good at defending, but also very good at attacking on overlapping. So it would look something like this, but unfortunately EA doesn't allow this in the game to be successful. Like, they don't like the fact that Rashford's not a cam, so they say Rashford can't play there, and they say Dalot can't play the right mid. So trying to make it work has been a little bit complicated to find the actual formation that works in real life to what Ruben runs. So for the sake of this video, I think what we're gonna do is kind of put it in the 4-1-2-1-2. But again, then that's putting it in a situation where Garnacho doesn't really fit, but he's gonna make Garnacho fit, if that makes sense. But for the sake of EA and their lack of ball knowledge, we'll have to do it this way to make it work, if that makes sense. So Rashford will look like a striker on this. You'll then have Bruno Fernandes behind with Meno and Ugarte in the middle. Garnacho obviously would be a little bit different in that scenario. And then you got Dalot, and you also have the beast that they brought in from Morocco. Inácio, De Ligt, Onana in net. I think the team will line up something like this, if I'm being fully honest with you. And then, like I told you guys, it would be a very, very attacking team, like a super attacking team. The left back and the right back are going to get very, very much involved. There's going to be one holding midfielder. Then there's going to be two box to box, like about one box to box, one holding guy. And I think that's how the formation will pretty much get on. You know, I think that's how it will be. A very, very aggressive 5-back or a very, very aggressive 5-back, 3-back, whatever you want to call it. But it's a very, very strong formation going forward and a very hard formation to break defensively. So this might not be the formation, but I think this is the players he's going to use the most, including Garnacho. I think Garnacho will get a stupid amount of PT for this team, and I think he's going to get really, really good stuff out of Garnacho. I think he's going to get a lot of good stuff out of a lot of players. I think one thing about Ruben Amorim is that Ruben Amorim is a player's coach before anything else. He is good at getting the most out of players. He is very good at that. He can give confidence to anyone who needs it. He is extremely, extremely good at that. Now that we know what the lineup's gonna look like, let's find out where this team is gonna be in January. Will they be doing good in the Champions League, in the Europa League? Will they be doing good in the Premier League? We're gonna find out. I will see you guys on January 1st when the transfer window opens up to see how Ruben Amorim is doing at Manchester United in his first season. So we are now on January 1st, and I think the most important thing that Manchester United fans would want is just for their team to be competitive. I think that's all they want, is for their team to be competitive, all right? That's what I personally believe. So September starts off with a tie against Liverpool, and they win a few games in there, and they also lose to Spurs. In October, they pick up a couple wins. They tie to Porto. They lose to Fenerbahce, they lose to Aston Villa, but then they beat the Bees in West Ham and Newcastle as well. In November, they lost to Chelsea, and they also lost another Europa League game and another league game, but then they won a couple in there as well. You move on to December, where again, an up and down, but a much better month, only losing to Arsenal, and they might be in trouble in the Europa League, but they also tie against City in a big match. And now we are where we are, which is January. And as it stands right now, Manchester United is in 6th place, and they are just in that Europe conversation. They're not terribly far away from 2nd place. As you guys can see, they're on 36 points, and Spurs are on 38. So there's not there's a small little gap there, man. They can definitely get themselves into a fantastic place here. The Europa League is where things started looking a little bit iffy. In the FA Cup, they're still alive. They're taking on Derby. In the Energy Cup, they're alive. They're taking on Chelsea in a big game, right? In the Europa League, they were kind of doing up and down. In the Europa League, they're in 18th place. They have to win their next 2 games to see if that actually keeps them alive in this competition. And hopefully it does. We have to go quickly take a look at how the team is doing. What players are doing well, what players aren't playing, what players are playing, and who's doing the best for them. So we'll head over to the stats real quick to first check who's playing the most games. Onana, Martinez, Bruno Fernandes, Gyökeres, Haaland is playing a lot. Mount is playing a lot as well. Dalot is playing a lot. Okay, the guys we thought would play a lot are playing a lot, except Inacio. It looks like Inacio only has 11 games. The top goal scorer here at Manchester United is going to be Bruno Fernandes and Gyökeres, both on 11. That's insane. And just like we talked about, Bruno Fernandes was going to get a lot. Ruben Amorim was going to get a lot out of Bruno Fernandes. 11 goals, 11 assists. He is having a beautiful season. Martinez with 4 and Eriksen with 4, Gyökeres with 3. So it hasn't been a bad season in any way since Ruben Amorim's takeover. They're in a solid place still, can get themselves into a top 5 situation, maybe even a top 3 situation, and they need to really rebound in the Europa League. That's what we're hoping happens the rest of the way. Let's find out what happens the rest of the way. And again, I can't speak for Manchester United fans, but if Ruben Amorim gets them above the top 5, back into a great European spot, and back in being a competitive team, that is what is most important for the rest of this season, and having these boys playing good, having Bruno getting good stats, having players stepping up when they need to. Let's see how the season ends for them. So let's talk about January. They start with Liverpool and they lose 2-1. A competitive match. They did not get blown out. They then play Chelsea in the cup and they beat Chelsea, which means they are on the way to a final of another Energy Cup final. Massive, massive accomplishment for Ruben Amorim in season 1. They also win their FA Cup game against Derby 1-0. They mess up against Southampton, unfortunately dropping points there, but then they bounce back against Brighton. They win a massive game against Rangers. They win another game against Fulham, and they end off the knockout, the group stage of, or the league table of the Europa League with another victory. Most likely seeing them going into the knockout stages of the Europa League in January. We go to look at the table where things have changed quite a bit. Manchester United is now in 5th place, 2 points away from 4th place. City is now kind of taken off a little bit. They're on 47, and Arsenal really took off. Arsenal are chilling on 55 points. So Manchester United now need to battle with Chelsea for 4th place, but they are in the running for it, which is very, very, very important. And in the Europa League, like we talked about, big bounce back for them. They're going to be playing Ajax in the knockout round because they went in 11th place on 13 points. So a good bounce back for them. Ajax will be a tough one, though. Like I told you, they are in a final. Actually, it's 2 legs. So the first leg, they beat Chelsea 1-0. They got to win again. That's an important one. And the FA Cup, like I told you, they've moved on. They're taking on Newcastle. We now need to move on to the next month to see how they will do in the month of February, where they'll face Chelsea for the second time, 2 games against Ajax, Spurs, Everton as well. A massive month coming up. So kind of an up and down one. In the Premier League, not so good. Results are not good. Crystal Palace, Spurs, Everton dropping points, only winning in knockout games. So they eliminate Chelsea, and that means they're on to a final. They then knock out Newcastle, keeping them in the FA Cup, and they knock out Ajax after losing the first game 2-1. They bounce back and win 2-0, and they advance in the Europa League. So in knockout football, they're doing pretty well. In the league, big slip up. Right now, in the FA Cup, they will be playing Burnley in the following upcoming match. In the Energy Cup, they'll be facing Everton in the final. Big chance for Ruben Amorim to get silverware. In the Europa League, they will be facing FC Porto. Ruben Amorim knows this team very well from Portugal. Massive game coming up here. Huge game coming up for him. And in the Premier League, they've dropped from 5th place to 6th place and now pretty far back on points. It's going to be hard to make those points up because it's City in front of them. Very, very complicated for them. We'll have to see how this goes, but that's not looking good. The league kind of tough for them. Going into March, there will be an Arsenal game. There will be an Everton final. There will be both games against FC Porto and also a big game against Burnley. Massive knockout football in the month of March. This was a massive month of March. They beat Burnley in the FA Cup. They then eliminate FC Porto from the Europa League. They then tie to Arsenal in the Premier League. They then eliminate Everton in the final, winning silverware for the first time under Ruben Amorim, getting himself the Energy Cup. Congratulations to Manchester United and Ruben Amorim on their first trophy. And then they eliminate another team in cup football to keep themselves alive in the FA Cup. This month is crazy. They're playing a Turkish side in the Europa League. Massive month here. They have Arsenal in the FA Cup. Massive game here. City, Newcastle, Wolves, Leicester. Wild April. That Arsenal game might be getting very close to the final. In the league, Manchester United is officially still in 6th place, unfortunately. Very far from Manchester United. They got to try to hold on to that 6th place. In the FA Cup, they are now officially in the semifinals taking on Arsenal. Massive game coming up there. Again, they won this competition. And when it goes to the Europa League, they are now taking on Busquets, the Turkish side. And when you look at this, Lazio, Roma, Bilbao, they have a chance at the Europa League. Very, very interesting quarterfinals coming up. This month is going to be massive. The Premier League's been a nightmare, but everything else has been phenomenal. They knock out the Turkish side, right? Did they knock out the Turkish side? They did, right? Did they knock them out? Did they knock out the Turkish side? They did. 4-3 on aggregate. They did. They're into the semifinals. They're taking on Roma in the semifinals. This is wild. This is crazy. So in the Premier League, they're still in 6th place, but now only by 2 points as Aston Villa is catching them. In the Shield, it went to them, but we know in real life it went to City. We know that. We know how that one went down. FA Cup. It is now a final between City and Liverpool. They are in another final. This is huge. FA Cup, that means they knocked out Arsenal 1-0. Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable for this team. They are in another final. They have a chance of going to a final in the Europa League. Okay, league football hasn't been the best for them, but a final of the Energy Cup, a final of the FA Cup, and potentially a final of the Europa League is wild for Manchester United. The problem is league football, they got to do better. Ruben Amorim has to hold on to 6th place. What a way to end the season. Oh my goodness. There is 2 games remaining, but let's talk about it. They beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final. They beat Lazio in the Europa League final. They tie to Aston Villa, and they are going to end the season with a Chelsea match that can determine if they stay in 6th place or not. They are going to tie the game here 1-1 as well. And now we got to go take a look at the season. The way the last month ends of May, they lose to Roma, come back and beat Roma. They lose to the Bees, they beat West Ham. They beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final. They beat Lazio in the Europa League final. They tie to Chelsea, they tie to Aston Villa, which could leave them out of 6th place. They end in 6th place. Incredible. They end in 6th place, all right? I think that's still, is that European football? Do you get Europa League in 6th place? I think you might get Europa League, or is it above there? I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe they get Europa League. Regardless, let's talk about it. 6th place in the Premier League is not great for Manchester United, but they were competitive. The FA Cup, they win that. Massive, massive silverware for Manchester United. You can't just say it's an Energy Cup. They win the FA Cup. They win the big one. They then go and win the Energy Cup to add a little bit more sauce onto it. And then when everyone was still saying, but, they go and get the Europa League away from Lazio. 3 competitions for Ruben Amorim. It's only 6th place in the Premier League, but 3 competitions to get Manchester United going back in the right direction. I am 1,000% sure Manchester United fans would be extremely happy with that. They want to see better than 6th place, but they know it's going to be a process. We go to the squad to see what took place. The most appearances is going to be Gyökeres with 68 games. Bruno Fernandes, 67. Martinez, 65. Haaland, 61. Onana with 60. Dalot with 52. Inacio at 49. He finally started playing. Let's go, Inacio. Top goal scorer, Bruno Fernandes, 26. Haaland, 25. Gyökeres, 24. That's pretty wild. Great amount of goals for those guys. Top assist guy, Bruno Fernandes, 21. Shout out to Bruno Fernandes for having an outstanding season. Mano with 7. Martinez with 6. Gyökeres with 5. Eriksen with 5. My man, Ugarte didn't have a crazy season, but as you can see, he has a knock, a little injury there. At the end of the day, lads, let's be honest. Ruben Amorim got Manchester United 3 finals, won all 3. Came in 6th place in the Premier League, but I'm going to tell you something right now. If he could win 3 competitions for Manchester United in his first season and also have them competitive in the Premier League, United fans will be on top of the world. United fans will be feeling great. And I know over time, Ruben Amorim can get Manchester United back competing for the top 3. Unbelievable first season for him. I can't wait to see what he does in real life. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys think he will last or if he will get sacked before the end of his contract. I would love to see y'all's predictions. That is what EA has going on for Manchester United with Ruben Amorim in this amazing season that's happening right now. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, big thumbs up, subscribe, turn your bell on, and more career mode content coming your way. Booyah, we're out of here.